Hi, and welcome everybody. My name is Dennis Brown, and this is my weekly Freight Broker Bootcamp Live. Today, we are doing a Freight Broker Business Ask Me Anything. So this is a live Q&A, okay? Hold your questions, give us a minute, but I am going to be here through this whole session to answer any and all questions that you have related to starting a freight brokerage, growing a freight brokerage, whatever it is you're looking for. I'm gonna do that for you. We're gonna let some people get live, and then we're gonna dive into some Q&A. Hold your questions until I tell you to type them in the comment box, and then I will address your question to the best of my knowledge. I guarantee you, I don't know everything, but I do know an awful lot about freight brokerage and starting and growing one. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Dennis Brown. I've been an entrepreneur for over 25 years. Been very, very blessed. Built 4 multi-million-dollar companies during my career in 4 different industries. One of those businesses was a freight brokerage. I started in 2003, grew it, did over $200 million in sales as a freight broker, and then eventually sold that business. But I am also the owner of freightbrokerbootcamp.com, which is the most cost-effective and comprehensive online freight broker and freight agent training program. If you're curious about becoming a freight broker, check it out. If you're brand new to the stream, you may have never heard that, you can feel free to check it out. There's a lot of great free information there. And today we're going to dedicate this session to live Q&A. Okay. Live Q&A. Plus I have a special announcement. Okay. Special announcement, but you're going to have to hold tight in order to get that information. I'll probably share it a little bit later in the feed. Special announcement. You're definitely not going to want to miss this. Okay. Hint, hint. You're definitely not going to want to miss this. I promise you. Some of you have been waiting for this for a while. All right. So we're going to let some people get live. Hit me up in the comments with the city and state you're logging in from. Some of you are already ahead of me. I'll try to give you some shout outs, and then we're going to jump into the live Q&A. Okay. You can ask me anything today. That's what this is all about. That's why I call it an Ask Me Anything. Okay. So Christina from New Braunfels, Texas, Starborn All from Georgia. Welcome. Bob from McPherson, Kansas. Devin from Markham, Illinois. Blakely Friend, welcome. Faith Crawford from Mount Laurel, New Jersey. Igor from Chicago. Oops, lost it. Victor from Miami, Florida. Malik from Philadelphia. Fifth Wheel Major from Sacramento, California. Welcome. Diane Parker, welcome. Eric from Santa Clarita, California. Deshunte Barnett, welcome. Diane Parker from Reading, California. Kay Bess from Virginia, welcome. Deshunte Barnett from North Carolina, there you go. Lali Mila from Dallas, Fort Worth area. Seek the Treasures of Your Heart from Dana Santos, Texas, welcome. Gail from Oklahoma City. Derek from Arkansas. Santi Alamonte from Tampa. Lando, welcome from Charlotte, North Carolina. Aaron Deep from Tracy, California. Zoran from Macedonia, welcome. Wow, all the way from Macedonia, amazing. Sean Cavell from Harker Heights, Texas. Maria McCarthy from Gillette, Wisconsin. Diego from Pomona, California, welcome. Haiti Black from Albany, New York, fellow New Yorker here. Tara May from Avondale, Arizona. Brennan from Attica, New York. Man, the font is so small. You can tell I'm getting old. All right, so I have a quick question for you. Totally non-related, but I'd love to get your feedback. And you don't need to placate my ego. How old do you think I am? How old do you think I am? Don't look it up. Don't use Google. You'll probably find it if you really want to, because Google knows everything. But what's your first guess? How old am I? Because my eyes, you won't be able to know that for sure. I had LASIK surgery probably 15 years ago. And by the way, that surgery is amazing. Okay. I went from basically being, functionally blind. I mean, I could see, but I could not see well, to better than 20/20 vision. Like a week later, I tested at 20/15 vision. But what I've noticed over the years, like everything else, it kind of degrades, right? And so, quick question, hit me up in the comment box. Well, there's some good ones and some bad ones. I love it. Not that I really give a shit, to be honest with you, because I stopped counting birthdays at 30. So I can tell you for sure I'm over 30. But all right, cool. Yeah, you guys are right in the ballpark. Awesome. You guys are right in the ballpark. Yeah. I turned 53 in January. So, this is farther than I thought I'd make it when I was 25. So here we are. All right, cool. So today we are going to be doing an Ask Me Anything, which means you can ask any questions that you have about starting or growing a successful freight brokerage or freight agency. So without further ado, type your questions in the chat box. I will get to as many questions as I can today. I'm a little bit limited on time, but I do hang tight because I have a special announcement. You're going to want to hear this, okay? You're definitely going to want to hear this, all right? So make sure that you stick around here for this special announcement, even if you don't have a question. But if you do have questions, hit me up in the comments. All right. How can I go about getting a shipper's list? All right. Well, there's a couple different ways you can do it. One, you can go online and you could go to some free resources like Thomas Registry, which is a database of manufacturers, distributors, producers, people that make and ship stuff. And you can search by industry or by product type, and you can compile a list of companies that way. That's a free way to do it, okay? There are other databases online that you can purchase, manufacturers databases, produce shipper databases, different databases that you can buy. Now, the price of those databases can vary from a few hundred to $10,000 or more based upon who's selling it, the type of data that they're including with it. So you can buy a database, right? The other way you can do it is if you join Freight Broker Bootcamp, which is my startup program, right? Whether you're a gold or platinum member, you can check that out at freightbrokerbootcamp.com. We include a shipper database of over 350,000 shippers in the US. Now, some of them are out of business because, of course, you have new businesses going out. You have businesses going out of business all the time. You have businesses consolidating, changing, the market's changing. So, but there are hundreds of thousands of active shippers in that database. If you are a member of Freight Broker Bootcamp, you can get that for free. It's a bonus that we include in there. You can search and compile a list from that database any way you want. So that's how you would create a list. Another way you could do it is use a source like LinkedIn. You could do some research on LinkedIn. It's a little bit more time consuming, but the data is usually pretty good, pretty accurate based upon the type of companies that you're looking for and the niche that you're in. So that's 4 different ways that you could start developing your shipper list. Good question. Thank you. 71. Diego. I'm going to remember you, Diego. He said I look 71. I love it. That's great. All right. You got me on that one, boy. Okay. Gina, I'll answer this in a bit. Okay, so Lil Teasy asks, do I need to be very educated to talk to a shipper? All right, so let me answer this question this way. Education is important when you're starting a business or when you're starting a new job. But here's what I want you to understand. This is not about formal education, meaning you didn't have to, the only thing you have to do in order to become a freight broker is literally graduate from high school or have a GED equivalent. A freight agent, to be honest with you, you don't even need that unless the broker requires it. You do not need a 4-year degree. You do not need a master's degree. You do not need a PhD. You do not need to pass some sort of crazy exam in order to become a freight broker or freight agent. So you don't need formal education, but you are going to want to be educated about the industry, about how freight brokerage works, about the niche that you're pursuing. And that's the reason why I put together Freight Broker Bootcamp over a decade ago. That's why I've trained over 10,000 students. And that's the reason why I offer a 60-day, 100% unconditional money back guarantee. If it doesn't serve you, if you're not happy with Freight Broker Bootcamp, just send us a message and we will refund 100% of your purchase price. No issues. Okay. So it's not about formal education, but you will need to have some education about the process of brokering, how to quote lanes. You'll also need to understand a little bit about you're going to need to understand a little bit about your niche. You're going to need to speak the lingo. That's what Freight Broker Bootcamp is all about. So I hope that helps. Good question. Okay, good question from Victor Blanco. How to quote partial loads, reefer, dry van. All right, so I'm going to focus on dry van. Reefer is a lot more challenging to quote partial loads because there's break bulks and there's different temperature requirements and there's all kinds of crazy things associated with trying to ship partial or LTL refrigerated freight. It's it's a lot more complex, okay? But we're going to start. I'll give you an example of how you might approach quoting partial dry van loads. All right. So let's take a look at this. The first thing you need to do in order to understand how to quote a partial load, and just so you guys know, there's LTL shipments, which is typically shipments, we'll call it under a few thousand pounds. There's partial shipment, or there's full truckload shipments, which is where you're taking a dedicated truck, like a 53-foot trailer, and it's dedicated exclusively to you. Or you can do what's known as a partial, where you will take a percentage of the truck, typically at least a quarter to a half, or maybe 3/4 of a truck, but typically quarters and half trucks is what partials run in, those types of sizes, right? And so the most important part of understanding how to run a partial load is understanding the cost of a full truckload in that same lane. So if you were going to run a full truckload from Buffalo to Atlanta and it was a van load, and you determine that and I'm just hypothetically coming up with price. If you determined your cost for that load was, just for easy math, $2,000 for a full truckload. Okay. Now, it's natural for people to think, okay, well, if $2,000 for a full truckload, then it would be $1,000 for a half truckload, but that's not true. Okay. That's not true. That's not how it will work. And they may think that, well, if it's a quarter truckload, then I'll do a quarter of the 2,000. It's 500 for a quarter truck. That's not true either. Okay. So there is no exact science for this. Okay. There is no exact math equation, but I'm going to give you a general rule of thumb. Okay. And here's how it works. What you will do is you will slide the scale slightly based upon the size of the truck. So what I mean by that is if you have if you know the truckload cost is $2,000 and you're looking for a quarter truck and a half truck rate, what you would do is you would add 50% onto the exact math equation. So for example, a quarter truck math equation would be, well, actually, here's how I would do it. Let me just give you a little bit of a buffer. A quarter truck would go for 1,000 and a half truck would go for 1,500. Okay. So you see the discount. Now it's not an exact discount. So if the full truck was 2,000, and I'm sorry, I'm not explaining this eloquently here, but I'm just going through it I'm doing the math in my head here. Okay. So if 2,000 for the full truckload, you would do 1,500 approximately for a half truck, and you would do 1,000 for a quarter truck. That's the key. So the key is that you need to leave yourself enough margin, because you got to remember, you're not going to find as many carriers that haul partial loads as you do full truckloads. Most carriers want to haul full truckloads. They want full truck, one pick, one drop, easy on, easy off. That's what they want. High rates, right? So partial truckloads, the advantage to partial truckloads is it allows the carrier to make more per mile than a full truckload. And so there's a little bit of a price delta there. So the price will go up. So I hope that makes sense. So remember, first figure out your full truckload rate, and then figure out what the math would be if you were to break it down, the quarter truck you would think would be 500, half truck would be 1,000. What you want to do is you want to move those up, and the quarter truck would be 1,000 and the half truck would be 1,500. So you're basically, that would be the basic math, right? So use those ratios as an example of how you would do that. I hope that helps. Maybe I'll put together a special training on that. I think that would be a good training to have. Maybe I'll do that. Good question. Okay, so Deshante asks, how do I go about getting customers? Well, there's a lot of ways you can get customers. One way that people do it is they tap into their existing network, people that they know. Another way that they do it is they ask for referrals from people that they know or from existing relationships. But the way that most freight brokers start out is by doing what's called sales, right? So you're doing freight broker sales. That means you're either doing some sort of cold or warm outreach over the phone, via email, face-to-face, through LinkedIn. Those are the four most common ways that freight brokers will start a conversation with their target market, and in order to develop a relationship and get them as a customer. Okay? So those are the primary ways. Tap into your network, get referrals, or do outreach, sales outreach. Sales outreach comes from phone, email, LinkedIn, or face-to-face. Those are the four most common. So I hope that helps. I get this question all the time. Where do you see the market going for 2023? Is this the right time to start a freight brokerage? Well, let me start with this. There is no perfect time to start a business. And let me explain to you why I say that. Because this is what markets always do. They always do this. If you look at the freight market over the last 20 years, there's ups, there's downs, there's peaks, there's valleys. If you look at the tech market, there's ups, there's downs, there's peak, there's valleys. If you look at the real estate market, there's ups, there's downs, there's peaks, there's valleys, right? You get my point. So what I want you to understand is there is no perfect time to start a business in any industry. But in my personal opinion, I believe you're better to start it in a valley than at a peak, because here's why. If you can make money in the valley, if you can start your business in a downturn or in a flat, if the market is in a flat trajectory, okay, and you can build your customer acquisition processes and you can run a profitable business in that market, when the market goes up, it'll only be, it'll be a gangbuster, right? So you'll do extremely well. But if you start at the peak where it may be potentially the easiest or the most availability of freight, when things get tight, your systems and processes will not be optimized to that. So that's one example. The other thing is that I truly believe that as a startup, you have a huge, huge advantage over large companies that already have been around for decades. Here's why. And that may sound weird to you, but I think you have a huge advantage because number one, your overhead is very, very low. Number two, your motivation is very, very high. Okay. Because if you don't make it work, well, then you got to go back to a job, which nobody wants to do. Okay. So there are a lot of reasons, but I believe now my prediction for the market, listen, I don't have a crystal ball, but if my best guesstimate is that the market is going to be flat. It'll be flat throughout 2023. So where it's at right now, it'll probably be pretty flat. And then sometime in 2024, it will start to rebound. That's my prediction. You asked for it. I don't have a crystal ball. I can't guarantee it. But if I were a betting man, that's what I would do. Okay. Because we've already seen a significant drop. Some of that having to do obviously with global economics and global policy and economic policy and supply and demand and all of that, right? But ultimately, I'm not an economist, but I would tell you that I think that we've seen the majority of the shakeout. And there's even data out there from reliable sources that will tell you that everything has started to level off rate-wise, freight tonnage wise, all that. Okay. So I hope that helps. Okay. So Dennis Brown, hey, I like the guy already. To whom should I reach out to for the container drayage business as a freight agent? All right. So if you are doing drayage for containers, you are going to need to be talking to companies that have imports or exports typically. Now, you could also do it with the rail, right? You could do drayage for the rail, but it's typically going to be drayage for rail or drayage for ocean freight. So you're either going to need to find companies that have rail freight or ocean freight, which is import export. The companies that have that, the manufacturers, distributors, producers, those people are importers and exporters. If you are a steel manufacturer in the United States, there's a good chance you're exporting some of that product. Some of that product staying domestic, but a lot of that product is probably getting exported. So that means it's got to go on a ship, right? So in order to get it on a ship, they got to take it from your location in a container. They got to bring it to the port. It needs to get loaded on the ship. It goes across the ocean, goes into another port, gets offloaded as a container and delivered to the final location. That's what an intermodal ocean freight looks like. And that's how the containers would work. So you're going to look for importers and exporters. The other thing you can do if you're in the drayage niche, is you can work directly with international freight forwarders. Now, this would be more of a co-brokering relationship, but they would be your customer. So you could reach out to international freight forwarders and let them know that you do drayage out of these ports and that you'd love to work with them and develop a relationship, right? So, it's a sales job. It's still sales, whether you're talking to a international freight forwarder or whether you're talking to Pepsi or whether you're talking to any importer exporter. You still have to go through the sales process, but that's who would be your target market. So you would go direct to shippers that are importers and exporters, or you would go to international freight forwarders and you would develop a relationship with them and you would basically co-broker with them, but they would be your customer. You would be delivering the drayage and they would outsource it to you. So those are a couple ideas. Hope that helps. Okay, so Sheila asks, is it crucial getting insurance for your brokerage in order to provide that to clients? No, it's not. As a freight broker, you are not required to get general liability, cargo, errors and emissions, any sort of insurance. You're not required by law to have any of those insurance, number one. In order to get your freight brokerage, you do not need that. As a freight agent, you need none of that either, okay? So just understand that up front. Now, I started my freight brokerage, and many of my students have started their freight brokerage with no insurance. No liability, general liability, and no contingent cargo. Some of them choose to get one or both, but it's not required. There are plenty of shippers out there that do not require either one of those things in order to do business with them. Okay? So now what my suggestion is, depending upon your financial situation, your cash flow in situation, and what you have, the financial resources you have, is that if cash is tight, then my suggestion is go out and get a shipper and then use those profits to help finance that type of insurance when you need it. So if you're running into shippers that are telling you they give you their business if you had contingent cargo, then all of a sudden it might be a good investment because it's a math equation. If contingent cargo costs you a couple $1,000 a year and you know that you're going to make way more than that in 2 or 3 months or 1 month or 6 months with this one shipper, then all of a sudden now you've financed the cost of that by using other people's money, right? So you've now generated profits to reinvest into the business. So that's a good way to approach it. Now, if you do have good financial resources and cash flow or whatever the case may be, contingent cargo might be a good investment, but it's only a good investment if you are running into shippers that are telling you that they require it. Because I can tell you, and nobody believes me, but the majority of shippers do not require brokers to have contingent cargo because they understand that the contingent cargo really doesn't mean much as long as the carrier has primary cargo. So if the broker vets the carrier and ensures that they have primary cargo coverage that will cover their type of freight, they have the dollar value requirements, there's no exclusions for their type of freight, there's no issues, then it's not an issue. Contingent cargo becomes useless at that point in the event that that the carrier's insurance was properly vetted. Okay, so I hope that makes sense. I hope you understand. Okay, so here I'm going to answer this question. What are the schedules for the live coaching? And is the course read yourself course or a video course? Okay, so Way Fast Logistics. Way Fast Logistics spilled the popcorn in the lobby. Here's the big announcement. Okay, the big announcement is this. The Freight Broker Sales Accelerator enrollment is now open. It's now open. I've been trying to get it open for the last couple of weeks. It's open now, regardless. I don't want to relive that last couple of weeks, but it is now open. So that means you can enroll in Freight Broker Sales Accelerator, which is my 5-week Freight Broker sales coaching and mentoring program. Okay. This is where I take this piece of my brain and I stick it into your head and I help you implement it into your business. That's the same system that I generated over $200 million in freight using. All right. I developed it and created it and leveraged it and was very fortunate. And so that's the system that is my Freight Broker Sales Accelerator. Now, the only way that you can get that program is to be on the wait list. Now, I'm cheating a little bit because there's a whole bunch of people that have been on the wait list, but if you get on the wait list right now, you will get a text shortly, sometime in the next 24 hours, where you will be able to enroll. So hint, if you're not on the wait list, you're not going to get enrolled. So if you're curious about the Freight Broker Sales Accelerator and you've been sleeping on it, and I've told you 50 times to get on the wait list, and you want to learn more about that, you want to get enrolled, get on the wait list. That's all I can tell you. I opened enrollment this morning. We've already got a ton of people. I've limited this to 100 people. Okay. I limit this to 100 people. It's first come, first serve, and it's going to sell out fast. So get on the wait list if you want to be involved with that. Now, to answer your question, what's the schedule? The live calls will be every Wednesday. Those call times may vary, but right now the live calls are going to be every Wednesday. But I do have a self-paced program, okay? Which means that gives you an option to do it on your own schedule versus the dedicated live coaching schedule. So there's multiple options there. There's payment plans. There's all of that. And it is a video course. It's video driven. There are 5 primary modules, including everything. And there are video lessons, but you also have downloadable resources to help support it, including cheat sheets, checklists, resource tools, downloads, audios, videos, everything that you will be able to download. Okay. So that's the big announcement. The Freight Broker Sales Accelerator is open, but you have to be on the wait list. Get on the wait list. And you will get now the group of people that have been on the wait list got first dibs. Okay. So they're all enrolling as we speak. And I can tell you right now, I'll give you a quick update. We have 100 seats total. And in the last couple of hours, I think over 20 of them. And so by the end of the day, over 20 of those seats are already full. Okay. So we've already sold 20 seats out of 100 in just a couple of hours. You get my point? So if you get on the wait list, you'll get a message that will give you a link where you can get enrolled, or you can get all the details. It's not a free program. It is going to cost you some money, but the return on investment can be huge. All right. So that's the big announcement. So I don't want to spend too much time on that, but you guys kept asking. There were some people that have been enrolled. Obviously, some of the people that are in here have already enrolled. And so they're asking questions about some details on the program that they weren't quite clear on. So yeah, Blakely friend, hopefully you got enrolled, buddy. Oh no, that's not it. I was looking at, yeah, Way Fast Logistics got enrolled, obviously, because they're asking about the schedule. All right. So Santi asks, hey, Dennis, I just got terminated from my job, but love the freight business. Should I take the leap of faith? You know, Santi, I can't make that decision for you, but all I can tell you is I took the leap of faith. Back in 2003, I had zero experience as a freight broker in transportation, trucking, or logistics. I mean, when I say zero, you know way more now than I did when I first got started in 2003. Okay. Went on to do over $200 million as a freight broker. Very, 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 very blessed. Okay. I've also trained many, many students who had zero experience and went on to grow very successful businesses. Now, I can't promise you success. I can't guarantee you success. Here's what I can guarantee you, that if you are a member of Freight Broker Bootcamp, you will be able to dot all the I's, cross all the T's, and you will have more than enough information and systems and tools in order to start a successful freight brokerage. Now, whether you will or you won't, that's up to you. As far as taking the leap, that's a personal choice, right? Look at your financial situation, look at your personal and family situation, look at the variables around you. Do you have the support? Are you truly passionate about starting and running your own business? And if you are, do it. Because the older you get and the more time that passes, the harder it gets. You're in a situation right now where you're unemployed. That may not seem ideal, but in reality, it would have been probably very difficult for you to quit that job to start a business because you had cash flow. But now your risk is lower. Why is your risk lower? Because you can't lose a job you've already lost, right? That's my 2 cents. Hope it helps. Okay, so Blakely Friend asks, what is a good schedule to follow when posting to social media and sourcing leads? And along with entertaining content for my audience, is it okay to make posts on social media about what I do? All right, so let me take this in reverse. Yes, it's okay to post things on social media about what you do. Yes. The type of content that you post will be determined by the channel that you're posting it on. LinkedIn has a tendency to be a little more business-like. Instagram has a tendency to be a little bit more casual or motivational. Twitter is a little bit more informational, right? Or news related. Facebook can be almost anything, but typically leans personal. All right. So depending upon the channel you're in is going to determine the type of content. But even on the business channel, even on LinkedIn, you can post about things you're doing. Maybe not about what you ate for breakfast or what you did this weekend, but you could talk about what's happening in your business from a day-to-day perspective. What did you learn today? What experience did you have today? What was going on, right? So you can talk about your personal stuff, but it needs to be determined heavily based upon the channel itself. But here, ultimately, what you need to understand is people do business with people. First, they need to know you, like you, and trust you. Understand if you have something in common with somebody. For example, let's say, you watched the big UFC fight this weekend with John Jones and Cyril Gane, right? If you watched that fight, it was a pay-per-view fight. It drives me, those pay-per-view fights are $80. It was crazy. Anyway, I spent the money because I really wanted to see John Jones in that fight and a couple other fights on the card. But if you're into UFC and MMA and you're talking about that, and you have somebody who's a part of your network and is connected with you in a first or second degree connection, and they see that you are an MMA fan and they're an MMA fan, you automatically have something in common, right? I told you the story of how I got one of my first customers on LinkedIn. If not, I'll share it with you really quick. I was on LinkedIn. I sent a connection request to a guy in Philadelphia who was in my niche. He connected with me. I then messaged him back because I'm in Buffalo. He's in Philadelphia. We started a conversation about football. Next thing you knew, it was a digital conversation. We were just going back and forth in messaging, busting each other's chops, giving each other a hard time. Next thing you know, we got on the phone. Most of that phone call, we didn't talk anything about me. We didn't talk anything about freight brokerage. We talked about football. We talked about how he got his job. We talked about what he liked about his job, what he didn't like about his job, what he did over the weekend. We talked about all that. And at the end of the conversation, he said, "Hey, Dennis, so tell me, I see here that you started a freight brokerage. Tell me a little bit about that." And I gave him a 60-second infomercial about how I had helped someone else, another company that was in his niche. It was a competitor of his, to solve a problem and ultimately become a partner to them and help them through their business. And he immediately got it. I asked him for permission to follow up with him down the road. And at that point, we hung up. We had a great engagement. And we had a great conversation, but believe it or not, I blew it. I didn't follow up with the guy. What a dummy. But guess what? Within about 30 days or so, he called me and he said, "Hey, Dennis, you remember me?" I said, "Sure, of course. I remember you, Bill." And he said, "I've got a problem." He became my customer and went on to do, I don't know, somewhere between $500,000 and $1 million in business with that guy during the term of that relationship. So it doesn't always happen that way. But my point is yes, you can talk about personal things, because your goal, it can't all be personal and it can't all be business. You can't be you don't want to be seen as a robot, right? People like people. People do business with people, right? Hope that helps. Lando says, my niche is power only. How do I go about, okay, my niche is power only. How do I find power only shippers? Well, power only shippers are typically hauling their commodity that they are hauling is typically trailers. So they're moving trailers for either manufacturers of trailers that need those trailers moved, or for companies that have trailers that they need moved from one location to another. So you need to find companies that make trailers or own trailers and need them moved. That's your target. So your target for power only is typically companies that need trailers moved. That is the commodity. Okay. So they may be using them and moving them for their own need, or it may be a part of the supply chain as they're selling those trailers. So I hope that helps. No. If I'm not a member, still want the database, do you sell it? No, I don't sell the database. You have to be a member of Freight Broker Bootcamp. Yep. If you're a member of Freight Broker Bootcamp, you're not able to download the database, but you can search it and you can have access to the database from Freight Broker Bootcamp. I don't sell that database. Okay. But I will tell you, if you're a member of Freight Broker Bootcamp, you get access to that. But also, if you're a member of Freight Broker Sales Accelerator, you get access to that. It's a bonus for them for that program as well. Just a thought. Haiti Black asks, how about government contracts and keep them? Okay, well, government contracts, in order to do business with the government, let's say, for example, like the DOD or some military or FEMA, they have different requirements, but most of them require you to be in business as a broker for at least 3 years. Now, some of them may have additional requirements. Most of them are going to have some sort of insurance requirement, like general liability, as well as contingent cargo. That can vary from body to body. But we did business with the Department of Defense, right? SDDC. We did business with them. We did millions of dollars with them over the term of the time we did business with them. And they were a good customer. They pay very quick, which is great. Believe it or not, they typically can pay you, within 48 hours, typically after delivering the load, once you deliver it out in their system. So you get paid very quickly, which is nice. But again, if you're a startup broker, you're probably not going to qualify for government freight because you need to be in business for several years. Okay. Hope that helps. Okay, Bess asks, when can I start accepting loads as a broker? Well, as soon as you get your Freight Broker Authority deemed active by the FMCSA, you are a licensed broker. You have your Freight Broker Authority. At that point, you are licensed to broker freight in the United States. Okay? So you have to have an active Freight Broker Authority. So if you've submitted your application and you've submitted all the requirements to get your Freight Broker Authority, but you still have not gotten notified that it's active, okay, you've got your MC number, you've sent in all the documentation, you now have what's called an inactive authority, but it needs to be deemed active. That usually takes somewhere between 3 and 5 weeks in order to get that completed, but you will get notified by email typically. You'll also get something probably in the mail that lets you know that you are now active. And at that point, you can now start brokering loads legally. Good question. Fifth wheel major. Do you see rates returning to pre-COVID rates? At some point they will. When? I don't know. But what you have to understand is rates are a function of supply and demand. Okay? The ratio of trucks to loads. If there are more loads than there are trucks, then rates go up because there's more competition. Okay? Those shippers are willing to pay more to get access to those trucks. So when there's less trucks than there are loads, rates go up. Conversely, when there are more trucks than there are loads, then rates go down because there's less competition. Shippers are willing to pay less because there's an oversupply of trucks. The good news is that there is an ongoing driver shortage. Statistically speaking, or numbers wise, depending upon who you talk to in the industry, and these are industry organizations, right? These are well-established industry organizations, trade organizations that understand and poll the industry and look at all the numbers and crunch the numbers. They will tell you there's between 50 and 100,000 driver shortage in any given year. Okay? That's when market is up or market is down, right? So there is an ongoing driver shortage that's directly tied back to the baby boomer effect and the fact that new kids coming out of high school don't necessarily want to be drivers, right? They don't want to be truck drivers. It can be a tough lifestyle. So they're not able to replace the number of drivers as quick as they are retiring. So that's creating a growing driver shortage. That driver shortage will decrease the supply of trucks, which typically will increase rates. But there's a lot of other variables that will go into that. So yes, I think they will get back to that. I just don't know when. Gail Edwards, what is the length of your Freight Broker Bootcamp program? Okay, so the Freight Broker Bootcamp is a self-paced, go at your own pace online training program. It's not a live program. You don't have to wait for me to come in every week and teach you. Once you enroll in Freight Broker Bootcamp, you get instant access to all of the training resources, all of the bonuses, everything. Okay. Most students are able to complete the Freight Broker Bootcamp in somewhere between 4 to 8 hours of time over a 2 to 4 week period of time. Now, that's not how long it takes. That's how long most students take to do it. Some people go through it very, very quickly. They digest the information very quickly. Some people consume and digest information slower. So assume 4 to 8 hours of actual time, study time, over a 2 to 4 week period of time is very reasonable. If your schedule does not afford that, then you can take weeks or months or years to complete the training, depending upon how you want to approach it. So you go at your own pace. That's one of the great things about Freight Broker Bootcamp is that you don't have to meet some stringent pace. You can do it at your own pace. Okay. So I hope that helps. Mark Townsend says, do you need your Freight Broker license before you get your certi bond? No, but I do suggest that you submit your Freight Broker application to the FMCSA. So you will submit a Freight Broker application, which will, at that point, you will get issued an MC number. Then what you do is you go out and get your Freight Broker bond. They're going to ask you your MC number. And at that point, once you're approved, they will directly report back to the FMCSA that you have met the bonding requirements, which is one of the key requirements in order to get your Freight Broker authority deemed active. Okay. There's some other things in there too, but no, you do not need to fully get licensed before you get your bond. Bonding is a requirement. So complete your Freight Broker application on the FMCSA and then get your bond because you'll have an inactive MC number. I go through all of this in the training as a Freight Broker Bootcamp member. Okay. Okay, Layla asks, what's the price on Bootcamp? Okay, so there's two options on Bootcamp. You can become a gold member, which is a 1-year unlimited access, unlimited support membership. That starts at $185 one time. That's a 1-year membership. You get full access for 1 full year. Or you can get, and it has a series of bonuses that come with it. Or you can become a platinum member, which is lifetime access, lifetime support, as well as a bunch of other bonuses included. Okay. So Yeah, it's $185 or $389. That's the Freight Broker Bootcamp membership currently. Now, I can tell you that I planned on raising the price of Freight Broker Bootcamp in January, and I haven't done it yet because I've been too busy, but it is going to increase. Okay. It's been that price for years now. I haven't increased it at all. The price is going to go up, but right now you can still get it for $185 for a gold membership or $389 for platinum. My suggestion, the biggest bang for your buck is platinum by far. Okay. $389. You never pay another dime for it ever. And you get unlimited support forever. Okay. Because the problems and challenges that you're having, that you'll have as a startup freight broker learning the business, are way different than the problems and challenges you'll have as a freight broker a year or 2 or 3 or 5 from now. But you'll still have access to support where we will try to support you through our platform. Okay. To help you continue growing. Hope that helps. Okay, Roberto Lopez says, how should I quote a hazmat load to a customer? You're going to quote a hazmat load to a customer the same way as you're going to quote a regular dry van load. The only difference is this information that you are going to source is going to be based on hazmat equipment. So if you are sourcing rate intelligence from different tools, then you're going to make sure that that can give you hazmat rates. Or you are going to be, or you're going to be talking to carriers that have hazmat equipment, because there may be a difference in price for hazmat versus regular van. Most hazmat freight goes in a van. It can also go in tankers, but a lot of it goes in a van. And if it's a liquid, obviously it's going to have to go in a tanker in most cases. But yeah, if you're doing hazmat and it's going in a van, it's hazmat van loads. And you got to understand, there are less carriers that have their hazmat placard or are certified to carry hazmat than there are just regular van loads. So there's going to be less supply of trucks. So that could potentially increase the rates. But you want to make sure you source the correct information, but you'll quote it the same way. Santi, that's great. He says the shipper I got terminated from is his first prospect. I have connection with a corporate VP of supply chain from the company that terminated. I feel good about the chances, but I need a break. Okay, then get educated, okay, and get established. Set up your freight brokerage, set up your website, set up your LinkedIn profile, become legit. You need to look legit. You need to look the part. You need to speak the part. You need to be prepared. And then approach that prospect. Don't approach them half-cocked with nothing in place. What do you expect him to tell you? Sure, I'll do business with you. You have no qualifications, but I'll do business with you. You don't look like you're in business, but I'll do business with you. Get everything set up and then approach that prospect, okay? You can't steal second with your foot on first. Hope that helps. Carlos asks, I'm an owner operator. I have my own authority. Can I use my MC and convert it into a broker MC? I don't think you can convert a carrier authority into a broker authority, but you could get your broker authority and then you could deactivate your carrier authority if you chose, or you could have both. So you could have a carrier authority and a broker authority, or you can just have a broker authority, or you can just have a carrier authority. But I don't think you can convert a carrier authority into a broker authority. I could be wrong, but I don't think that's possible. Hatim asks, should I take the Freight Broker Sales Accelerator program even though I didn't take the Freight Broker Bootcamp program? You absolutely can. It depends upon where you are in your journey. Here's what I can tell you. Some people need some assistance connecting the dots in order to get started, to do their startup plan, to get their authority, to set up their office, to identify their niche, to understand basic customer acquisition strategies, right? Some people need assistance there, and that's what Freight Broker Bootcamp is for. It's a step-by-step process. But Some people don't necessarily need that, but they do want the advanced sales strategies, tactics, tools in my entire system. So I have a lot of people that didn't go through Freight Broker Bootcamp that actually bought the Freight Broker Sales Accelerator. But I also have a lot of people who graduated from Freight Broker Bootcamp who then moved on to the Accelerator. So you are not required to be a part of Freight Broker Bootcamp before you join the Sales Accelerator. But if you have not don't have the preliminary and basic information of getting started as a freight broker, and you don't have that fundamental information and education wherever you got it from, then I wouldn't recommend Freight Broker Bootcamp or Freight Broker Sales Accelerator, because we're going to be talking about things that are fundamental that you'll need to understand fundamentally about the freight brokerage business in order to apply it in the sales environment, if that makes sense. Good question. And I can tell you, it's a good time to mention it. The Freight Broker Sales Accelerator is now open for enrollment. I told you earlier, but the only way you can do it, you got to get on the wait list. FreightBrokerBootcamp.com/waitlist. I can tell you right now, let me see. I'll tell you right now. During this live, we have added about 6 more people. Okay. I've only been on here for 50 minutes, but we've added about 6 more people. So seats are going very quickly. So you get my point. Get enrolled. Okay. Get on the wait list. And then within a short period of time, you'll get a message from us. You'll be able to click and see all the details. You'll be able to see everything that's included, all of the options. You'll be able to see the price. You'll be able to see everything that's included once you get that link. And then you'll be able to enroll or not enroll. If you choose not to enroll, that's fine. No big deal. Costs you nothing. But if you do get enrolled, I'll be able to take that piece of my brain and transplant it into your help and help you implement it over a 5-week coaching program. Okay. That's where I become your freight coach and mentor. All right. Hope that helps. All right. Let me see here. Where was the last question? All right. What do you think of truck? What do you think of Truck Logic dispatch software? I'm not familiar with it. Not familiar with Truck Logic. The TMS that I always recommend and that I have vetted significantly and has been around for over a decade is, you can go to this link if you want to if you want to get access to a special offer. Go to freightbrokerbootcamp.com/TMS. I know the CEO. I've seen the software. They're extremely innovative. They're forward thinking. They're well financed. They're profitable. They're established. Right? They're one of the leaders in the industry, and they serve startups. Right? So they have a program that's very viable for startups, not only from a technological perspective, but from a cost perspective. Okay. So if you go to that link, freightbrokerbootcamp.com/TMS, and you use the coupon code FBBC, as in Freight Broker Bootcamp, FBBC, you will get a special offer. You'll be able to, number one, you'll be able to enroll with no credit card and get a free trial. And you will be able to get access to a special shipper database that they will provide you. I don't provide that, but they will provide you that shipper database. It's separate shipper database, just as a inducement to my customer, to my community. So you can get that at freightbrokerbootcamp.com/TMS, and you put in the coupon code FBBC. That'll get you a free trial, and you can upgrade at any point. Okay. There's lots of options. Very good system. Felicia asks, after this accelerated class, do you have an idea when the next class will start? I need to save up. I don't know, Felicia. It'll be 3 to 6 months. Probably on the inside 3 months, on the outside 6 months. It depends on my schedule. Most likely at least a few months, right? Hope that helps. Okay, Nate Davis, if I do the agent class, what's the difference in taking the broker class? Freight Broker Bootcamp is all one class. There's not an agent class and a broker class. They're all combined. And the reason being, because a lot of my students don't know if they want to become an agent or a broker to start. And rather than offering different classes, it's all in one. Most of the information crosses over from broker to agent, but there is some more information specific to brokers, and you have that. So you'll never have to purchase another course as it relates to startup, right? So yeah, so in Freight Broker Bootcamp, there isn't two different courses, agent and broker. We have a gold and a platinum, but those are just membership levels, right? One is a 1-year membership, one is a lifetime membership, okay? So yeah, if you take that, you're going to get all the information about becoming an agent or a broker. Good question. Okay, Way Fast Logistics says, Dennis, one question. If you have 20K cash, should you still look for a factoring company? And do you think 20K is enough to start? And if yes, what companies do you recommend for brokers? 20K is more than enough to get started. But you will, depending upon your growth rate, like for example, if the average truckload is $1,500 and you run 10 truckloads in your first month, the maximum outflow of cash is $15,000. But in month 3, if you're doing 30 loads at 1,500, your maximum cash is 45,000. That's your cash flow number, basically. Well, it would actually be a little less than that based upon what you're paying the carrier. So it's more than enough to get started, but it depends upon how quickly you're going to grow. My suggestion is, if you have that cash, leverage that cash and grow the business without taking a discount or it costing you for factoring. But if you do decide to do factoring, then the one that the community likes the most, the one that I never did factoring, okay? We were fortunate enough to have enough cash and enough, establish enough credit line that we were able to do it on our own. But that's not everybody's case. So the one that everybody likes in the community is Denim, Denim, okay? Denim.com, I think is what it is, Denim. That's the one that most of the community points to. There are some other ones as well, but that's probably the one that I hear most. Good question. Okay, Regina. So my question is, my niche is cargo sprinter vans and box trucks. How would I go about finding shippers? Well, a lot of times that is an expedited load. That's where those sprinter vans, cargo vans, and box trucks will go for. It'll be like an expedited freight. So that's someplace you might want to go. Look for companies that need and require expedited freight. That can be challenging sometimes, though, to identify. It's typically going to be smaller shipments. You're not looking at full truckload shipments. You're looking at 1 pallet, 2 pallets, maybe 5 or 6 pallets, something like that. You're not looking for heavy weight or large volume. You're looking for smaller volume. So LTL, if you're doing local or regional stuff, companies that would be local to your geography or specific to the niche that you're serving. So if I were in Buffalo, I would hit a bunch of shippers here in the Buffalo area. I would let them know that that's the equipment and my niche and I specialize in. And then I would develop that relationship and try to ascertain if they have a need, right? At that point, that's how you're going to develop that rapport. You're going to have to kick some tires and figure out whether they have a need. But there are a lot more companies that need LTL than need full truckload. Okay. The volume, especially on a local market, if you're talking about a regional market of 100 to maybe 300 miles, there's a lot more LTL shipments than full truckload shipments. So yeah, that's where I would start. Hope that helps, Regina. Good question. Okay, so Evie asks, I have absolutely no experience in the industry. Is this going to be harder for me after I complete my course? Are there companies that are willing to hire people with no experience? Okay, so Evie, you have no experience in the industry right now versus completing Freight Broker Bootcamp, which is going to be easier to get hired and which is going to be easier to do the job after you get trained. Right now, you have nothing. Once you complete the training, you'll have a lot of information. You'll understand exactly how freight brokers make money. And at that point, you'll have a better chance to either start your own freight brokerage, become your own freight agent, or get hired by somebody if you want to go take a W-2 job. Now, are there people that are willing to hire me with no experience? Yes. You can get hired on a W-2 basis as an employee locally, and somebody that is a freight brokerage or freight forwarder or something like that, or a carrier, if you have some basic fundamental training like Freight Broker Bootcamp, or you can become an agent. And yes, there are plenty of companies out there that will hire you with no experience. If you want to check out some of those companies, you could go to freightbrokerbootcamp.com/jobs. That is a job board that I put together specifically for freight brokers and freight agents. If you are a broker or an agent that is looking to hire people, you can post a free job ad there. If you are a broker or an agent looking to get hired, you can go there and apply to jobs, right? Because there are postings there that will allow you to do that. Some of them require experience, some of them don't. So yes, I hope that helps. Okay, so Amanda Glover asks, I know rates change all the time, but I'm struggling with knowing good, bad lanes over all that I need to factor into my quotes. Okay, so here's the thing. The bigger the delta between the number of loads and the number of trucks, the harder it is. So if you have this many trucks and this many, or if they have this many loads and this many trucks, if there's a big delta between them, then it's going to be harder to find equipment. But rates will be higher because there's more competition for those trucks. But if you go in and search a lane like Buffalo to Atlanta for flatbed and there's no trucks being posted in that lane, that's a good indicator that you're going to struggle covering that load. Okay? So if you're not seeing capacity, truck capacity being posted daily in those lanes, then you probably shouldn't compete for those lanes unless you have a source of equipment or a source of trucks that are not part of the load board. But if you do source that lane, Buffalo, Atlanta for flatbed, and you see trucks are being posted regularly on a daily basis, even if there is a delta between the number of loads and the number of trucks, you now know that you're going to be able to cover that load. Now, the number of trucks to the number of loads, that's one of the things you're going to look at. You're going to look at, as a new startup, you're going to be looking at, because that's where you're going to get most of your carriers as a startup, is the load boards. That's how you're going to start. And then from there, you're going to develop relationships with those guys that you do business with, guys and gals. And then eventually you'll just use those people over and over again. But when you first get started, you're going to use load boards. So that load board is the greatest source of information for you to determine the viability of any given lane, not just from pricing, but from the ability to cover it. Because anybody can quote a price, right? Anybody can quote a price, high or low. But it doesn't mean you're going to cover the freight. If you can't source the trucks, it doesn't matter, right? But the higher the rates, the more likely you are to find trucks. Hope that helps. How much is the Freight Broker Sales Accelerator course? Get on the wait list, find out. Get on the wait list, find out. There's multiple options. Okay, there's multiple options. There's lots of options. There's one pays, there's payment plans, there's the live course, there's the self-paced course. There's a lot of different options. Get on the wait list, you'll get all the information. Okay, so Nate Davis asks, what is the bond for? Okay, so good question. There's a lot of misinformation and misunderstanding about the freight broker bond. The freight broker bond is designed to protect the motor carriers that you are doing business with. So for example, if I get a $75,000 freight broker bond, which is the requirement, okay, doesn't cost you $75,000. It's like an insurance product that probably costs you $1,000 to $3,000 depending on your credit. But if you get a $75,000 bond, that bond guarantees the first $75,000 worth of invoices that the carriers send to you, that they will be paid by the bonding company, even if you don't pay them. So if you were to run a bunch of loads and then not try to pay the carriers, the bonding company would be required to pay those invoices. That's what a bond does. It guarantees payment to the carriers. It has nothing to do with the shippers. So a freight broker bond has nothing to do with shippers. A lot of people think it has to do with shippers. It doesn't. It has to do with the carriers that you do business with. It's a tool to help protect carriers that do business with brokers. It's a guarantee of payment is basically what it is. That's why it's called a surety bond. Okay? Hope that helps. Okay, guys. So let's wrap it up. Here's the last thing I'm going to leave you with. If you want me to become your freight broker coach, your freight broker mentor, you've been waiting and you haven't gotten enrolled yet, or you're not on the wait list, the Freight Broker Sales Accelerator is open right now. It will sell out very quick. We limit it to 100 spots. You can get on the wait list at freightbrokerbootcamp.com/waitlist. I can't guarantee by the time you get on the wait list that there's still going to be seats available. But if you're on the wait list, you'll get the information now and you'll get notified next time I open it up. Okay, so it's a win-win. But that is where I take this piece of my brain, I transplant it into your help, and I help you get shippers quickly to start generating cash flow for you to grow your business, right? From startup to $1 million to $5 million to $10 million. Many of my students have went on to use Freight Broker Sales Accelerator to do 6, 7, and even 8 figures in sales. So I'm waiting for the first broker to hit 100 million in sales, but that will happen. But we have brokers that are already doing millions of dollars per month in sales that have went through my different programs. So get on the wait list. If you are just looking to get started as a freight broker, okay, and you don't have a lot of information and you need some handholding and you need some guidance and you need the step-by-step process to get started as a freight broker freight agent, you can check that out at freightbrokerbootcamp.com. Okay, freightbrokerbootcamp.com. Been in business over a decade. We have trained over 10,000 students and we offer a 60-day, 100% unconditional money-back guarantee. Okay, that's the best I can get for you. Can't do any better. Have an awesome day. Have an awesome week, and I'll see you on the inside.